Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the next session here. I'm with my good friend, Nicole Janey, and she's an ECC supervisor, Chelsea Emergency Management, and she's going to be doing a session called Shots Fired, Breaking the Silence on PTSD, Peer Support, and Resiliency. Now, your PowerPoint, if you can bring it back up, I'm not sure if you minimized it, but it went,
Yeah,
there we go.
there
Awesome.
we go. Okay.
Perfect. And here we go. Take it away, my friend. This is an excellent session. I was in the one that you did for the SBP conference, and
hmm
I am very excited. Thank you again for doing this, and take it
Yeah,
away.
thanks for having me on. So good morning, everyone. My name is Nicole Janey. I am a supervisor for Chelsea Emergency Management and Communications, and that's in Chelsea, Massachusetts, which just borders Boston. Um, I want to start off by saying so far my morning has not gone as planned. I had some technology fails, so all of my carefully planned notes and scripts and everything got lost this morning when my computer had a complete hard drive fail. Um, if any of you out there know your disc personality and you're a C strong D, you can imagine my pain right now. Good morning, Tracy. Everything that I'm doing today is going to just be from the heart. And it's not that it wasn't before, um, but I am a true dispatcher first and foremost, and every dispatcher just has to improvise sometimes. So here we go. First things first, I'm a very direct person. Um, there's very little that offends me. As you can see, I'm okay poking fun at myself. I say that just please, if you have questions, be direct, ask away. Um, Ask in the little tab that's down in the corner, just because I may not see it in the comments. And for those who aren't able to catch this live and want to come back and watch it later, they can actually click on the question in the questions tab, and it will bring them straight to the point in the presentation where I answer the question. But please ask away. Someone says, "Okay, hold my beer." If you're having beer, please have another one for me because it's only 10 o'clock here in Boston. It's a little too early to start drinking, but I feel like I could use one. So the other thing about me is I like to be very transparent about my experience. I feel like it's time for the conversation to change on the little dark, dirty secret known as PTSD in the 911 world. I feel like we probably all know someone or have heard of someone who struggles with a job because of the exposures they've had to these types of calls. We can't keep asking people to do this job and not provide the necessary mental underpinnings needed in order for them to be resilient in this job, to be able to come back and do it over and over and over again. The goal is to touch a nerve with everyone watching. By the time I'm finished, I want you guys to be able to take a look at yourself, take a look at the people you work with, and have a better understanding of what the silent struggle is that someone is going through. I want you guys to get that we need to change. We need to change this dialogue, and we need to be way more open about it. I will say, you'll hear me say, I go into some pretty dark things. I talk about my own demons that I've had to fight going through this journey. It is never my intent in talking about myself to cause harm, to trigger others, right? My life's motto is do no harm, but take no shit. um, if you're watching this and you're already kind of questioning, well, should I be here watching because I don't know if I can make it through this? It's okay to hit pause and check in with yourself and walk away if you need to, and then come back later when you're in a better space, or you have someone you can watch with you. I'm going to take you through kind of the dark side of me and what I went through, but I promise I will bring you through to the other side, and show you that there is hope, and try to give you guys some tools to how you can help yourselves and your others and your centers. You'll hear me say the term dispatch a lot. Um, this talk is meant to be all inclusive. I say dispatch because that's my perspective, not 911 call taker and dispatcher. But it hit me recently that 911 is made up of so many more people than just call takers and dispatchers, right? We have our clerks, we have our technicians, we have all of our vendors who come in and interact with us some way. There's so many people that work together to make 911 work as seamlessly as possible. And I don't want to exclude them from this too. The trauma that people have exposure to, outside of even call taking and dispatching is huge, and they're not often included, and we need to start including them in as well because they're affected as well. And that thought is what made me come up with this photography project I've been doing. You Are Not Alone, Portraits of the Gold Line Family. And the goal is to get everyone's face out there and show that we're all connected, in this thin gold line that we're a part of. And you guys can go ahead. That's on social media, Facebook and Instagram. It's under the Gold Line Family. I want to bring other people's stories in, not just mine. I'm not the only one who's been affected. So you'll see some slides come up from Ricardo's I Am 911 movement. And I was also very fortunate to be able to reach out to others and kind of just check in with them and see how they've been affected, specifically this past year, because so much has happened that I don't think any of us anticipated. Back in January, I was in Austin speaking at the NINA Critical Issues Forum about my story. And I remember saying to them, as I walk you through my experience, I want you to keep your own people in mind. Because right now you have someone working for you that is already under a tremendous amount of stress. And they are about to listen to a call, pick up the phone, answer their mic, and their life is about to change. I don't want other people to go through the same thing I did. I want people to have support. I want people to know that they're not alone in this journey. And that's my hope in sharing all of this with you. And at the time that I asked people to keep their own centers in mind, we hadn't gone through COVID. We hadn't gone through COVID. We hadn't gone through all these natural disasters, the wildfires, the hurricanes. I know even now, guys in the South, the Gulf, particularly Louisiana, Texas, are getting hit, and my heart is with you guys right now. But I look at everything we've been through, and I just wonder how many other people have been affected in this past year since I talked and said, guys, we need to address this. How many more people are now feeling that weight of that trauma? We need to start doing something about it. It's not going to go away. It's going to keep getting worse as events keep rolling towards us. So what the hell is PTSD? I feel like it's a term that gets thrown around a lot, but what is it? So it stands for post-traumatic stress disorder. And I'm going to keep it simple, stupid, or stupid, simple, and explain to you exactly how it was explained to me, which is it is your central nervous system's response to a fight or flight situation. It's your brain's response. It's a mental response to what is perceived as a traumatic situation. And the problem is your brain gets stuck and it thinks that it's still happening. the really messed up part about PTSD is that it's completely dependent on the person, right? Um, we all have different reactions to different scenarios, and I would love to see the next slide I put up. I would love to see in the comments what you guys think of those three pictures. Use an emoji or one word to keep it short. But I want to see what your reactions are to these photos. Um, or are there any reactions? I don't see any reactions popping up. What the hell? All right. Well, so I don't know what you guys are reacting to. um, wow, oh shit, and gross. Well, yeah. So my reactions to this, right? So number one is just welcome to Boston. Just just another gorgeous day in Boston. Um, uh, typical Red Sox fan. Um, Number two, Mark, you and I have the same reaction. So, number two, the Penske truck. So, I was working during the Boston Marathon bombing, and for several hours after the initial events, we were putting out bolos for Penske trucks because we thought that that was what was involved. Number three, my reaction is a little bit more intense. I want to scream like a little girl, grab the nearest object, and I don't care what it is, Hulk smash the shit out of it, and then grab a flamethrower just to make sure. But as you see, um, now all the comments are coming up and I can see what people's reactions are. So, but as you see, we all have different reactions to those. So if you take those simple pictures and you multiply that and you apply it to all the situations we get coming into 911, all the life and death situations, everyone's worst day, we're all going to react differently. And that's why it's important that we start talking about it. We need to change the stigma that comes attached with it. So how did I get involved in this? By the time I worked my event in Boston, I had been a dispatcher for about 9 years. I had already done several years with municipal 911. Funny enough, my cynicism and sense of humor did not come from 911. Prior to this field, I worked in social work. I worked a couple of years on a child abuse hotline. And let me tell you, nothing helps hone your bullshit meter more like answering calls 24/7 just about child abuse. So, needless to say, by the time I made the switch to 911, I basically just fit right in. I did want to be a cop. I tried. Massachusetts has very strict standards about like physical limitations, and my eyesight was so bad that Mass Civil Service basically said that's great, but we're not comfortable giving you a gun. And at that point, I'd already been dispatching. Decided, you know what, I like it. I think I'll stay. And so that's what brought me to Boston for this particular event. So now I'm at Boston Police. I'm working. I was there a couple of years and then got asked to take over due to someone else leaving one of their more difficult channels. For those of you in the region, Channel 3. It covers more the inner city parts of Boston. It's basically best described as a shit show with secret squirrel shit going on in the backgrounds. We're talking lots of specialty units, lots of undercover, lots of violent crimes. Um, a typical day in the summer is at least a shooting, at least one. And if there wasn't a foot pursuit, I thought something was up. It was like the calm before the storm. So I've been working this channel for a couple of years leading up to this incident. And what do you think my mindset is at this point, right? Um, well, so what is mindset? Mindset is basically just a set of attitudes. It's your state of mind, and we don't really talk enough, I think, about mindset in 911. I know we're starting to. We're starting to get that out there, but having a positive mindset is one of the best tools you can have in your self-care box if you are going to work in the 911 profession. If you have a negative mindset and you're in this profession, you're setting yourself up for failure. You're not going to last. It's not possible. Um, we need to start thinking about the people we're asking to do this job. The people that come in that do this job, they care, they want to make a difference, they want to help people. And that mentality doesn't change when they go home, right? So a lot of people, they have a very full plate at home. They come into work, they take on more stress, they leave, they go home, they take that stress with them. They add on more stress, and it just becomes a cycle. Um, Dispatching is a mind game, right? We can't just come in and sit down and figure out what we're doing for dinner and answer the phones and click the mics. It's being mentally prepared to help someone on their worst day. And in order to do that, we have to take care of ourselves, and that includes having a positive mindset. I'm not saying that being positive means that you always have to be peppy and upbeat. That's not what it is. Um, I can tell you right now that I am not normally a peppy person. People at my center, I've had to kind of remind them repeatedly that I come across as kind of just math sometimes. And it doesn't mean I'm mad. It doesn't mean anything. It typically means I'm stressed and my mind is everywhere else except for the person that I should be interacting with. But I kind of have to remind people, don't take it personally. This is what it means. Um, I Probably this quote actually is the best thing. Being positive doesn't mean you live in Candyland. Yeah, no, I'm not a peppy person. I am not all sunshine and rainbows and unicorns and glitter. I like wearing a lot of black. I listen to emo music. Um, I believe I'm a realist. I know I'm cynical. The Hallmark Channel genuinely terrifies me because emotions, right? But my mindset is still positive. I'm still able to check in with myself and realize, what am I offering to people right now? What are they seeing? What's going on in the world? How am I going to conquer whatever it is that's in front of me? I may not have any idea what's happening. Perfect thing this morning. Hard drive crashes. Crap. Crap. What am I supposed to do? You know what? I don't know, but I'll figure it out. It's going to be okay. I've got this, right? I've got this. So that's what I mean when I say you have to have a positive mindset. It is that hope that I don't know what's coming, but I will figure it out. Everything is going to be okay. So, um, my mindset that day was crap. My mindset was crap. It was not positive. It was on the pretty far side of negative. I was really stressed. I walked into work that day and I knew I was in a bad mood. I knew that channel, you have to manage that channel or that channel will manage you. And I walked in that day and I knew the way I am right now, that channel is going to hand my ass to me. So someone had brought in some baby bunnies, and I decided on my bathroom break I was going to sit under a console and snuggle the crap out of those bunnies. And that's what I did. And I posted it up on social media. And then I went back and I sat at my desk and I took my channel back. And literally in seconds, my world turned upside down. So the next slide is going to be video and audio of the incident. There is no audio, probably the first 30 to 40 seconds. So just be prepared for that. It's nothing, freezing up on you.
So if you could assist the caller, 18. Shots fired. Humboldt and Rooster, we need help. Humboldt and Rooster, shots fired. 104 going. Yeah, shots fired. Shots fired, Humboldt and Rooster. Shots fired now. Stay off the air, stay off the air. Study him up.
There's an officer shot on the floor. There's one dead in front of the barber shop. I don't know if there's another officer, but something just happened. There's an officer down. There's an officer down. Somebody dead in front of the barber shop.
So this next one is just audio, and it's just going to pick right up where we left off, but just for you to get a little bit more of the radio traffic of what happened with that call.
Keep Humboldt clear. What's the description? Sir, H&H is on the way. You have EMS on the way, sir.
Bravo 919.
99, go ahead.
And as soon as the unit runs, I want them to influence the hospital. I want 2 units with that ambulance.
Yeah, Bravo 412, Bravo 434. Follow the ambulance to the hospital. Guys, watch your mic. You have units in the room. Yes, we do. We need those cruisers to stay on. What's going on? What are you doing to get through that?
4-3. Bravo 909.
9, go ahead.
The ambulance is just about to move. As soon as it moves, you're going to strap this scene down. The scene needs to be shut.
Scene needs to be shut down once the EMS moves and units be advised. C is going to be clear at AFRA.
System stop traffic. Speeding into Humboldt. Thank you, Bravo 4. Have the ambulance come up on both the Seabrook. We have everything shut down all the way to the hospital. We're moving right now.
Watch your mic.
Thank you, Bravo 4.
Thank you, Bravo 4. You have the air.
Yeah, Humboldt to Seabrook. And we're going to go all the way to Boston Medical. Humboldt to Seabrook to Boston Medical.
Okay, so basically what happened was a traffic stop gone wrong. Those units were gang units that were attempting a traffic stop. One of the officers walked up to the car just to talk with them, and the passenger opened the door and opened fire and shot him point blank in the face. They had not called off on that traffic stop. So I didn't know where they were up until they started screaming for help. The situation was a bit difficult in that it was a Friday afternoon in a very, very busy part of the city. So the concern was actually all the traffic blocking the route for the ambulance to get to that officer. At one point, we had someone come over. We thought there was another officer missing. And someone came on the air and said, I think I last saw him engaged in a foot pursuit down a side street. So all these little things kept kind of coming up for me to have to manage on top of this massive scene. And what happens with officer-involved calls, child-involved calls, everyone wants to drop everything and head right in. And you can't do that, right? One of the classes I took on it, like ICS, Incident Command, was one of the biggest lessons after 9/11 learned was everybody head right in and was parked there and blocked the route for people to get out. So in the middle of all this, I'm working with other dispatchers in the room who are trying to send me their units, and I'm trying to tell them, no, please don't. Let's start shutting off side streets. Let's create a chute for the ambulance to get from point A to point B. We had protesters show up on scene because the suspect's body had to be left in place in order to preserve the crime scene. So that was kind of an added conflict on top of already a very hot and emotionally charged call. In the meantime, all of this is going on the side. In dispatch, I'm managing my channel. I'm talking with other dispatchers. My supervisors are kind of just standing over my shoulder. You know, what's going on? I still have to document everything that's coming over the radio. So everything, I mean, my multitasking skills that day went to a level that I have never ever seen before and have never seen since. I mean, I flew. And outwardly, I think I was very calm and focused and in control because I had to be. But in my mind, nothing else mattered. And I just want to say I want to pause for a moment and check in because I'm reading some of the comments and I know that audio, that video is very disturbing. So I'll repeat what I said at the beginning, which was we are going to talk about some dark things. We're going to talk about some tricky things. And if you have any doubts about watching this, pause and walk away and take a breath. It's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It's okay to not be okay. As was said in another session that also was talking about PTSD yesterday. My intent is never to harm. I don't want to see people triggered. It is a very hot topic. And that's why I said I want to be very forthcoming about what I'm talking about. I don't want to see people troubled by this either. So I would just ask, maybe now would be a good time for everyone just to kind of pause, take a deep breath in, and then slowly let it out before we continue. And like I said, it's still okay. This is being recorded. If you need to pause and walk away, that's okay. That's okay. I can't tell you how hard it's been for me, even through everything, to sometimes still I still get hit with emotions going through this. So the incident itself, controlled chaos, right? That's what we do as dispatchers. The incident happened. It took 5 hours. 5 hours of my shift. At midnight, my relief came in, and I filled her in, and I walked out. Just like that, right? Just another day at the office. No one stopped me. No one checked in on me. I literally unplugged my headset, was like, okay, this is where everyone's at. Yeah, crazy night, huh? And went home. And the next day, well, actually, so let me back up. So as I came to hear more of the story as the years passed, at one point that night, my coworkers went up to the supervisors in the room. And the supervisors in the room they were sworn personnel. The 911 personnel were civilians, but the supervisors were sworn. And my coworkers went up to the supervisors and said, what is she still doing on the channel? She shouldn't be working. And the supervisor said, well, she's just a civilian. She's doing fine. And then I went home. I came back the next day. And did the same thing. Did my job, sat down, took the channel, same calls, same everything, same bullshit. Honestly, I was getting a little mad because part of me was like, God, we care so much for our units, and I don't think our units, our apparatus, and when I say units, like I dispatch police and fire. So when I say units, that is anyone who responds, anyone we dispatch to a call. Those are our units. A lot of times we take responsibility for them, and we don't know them. But we feel like it's our responsibility to keep them safe. And the calls coming in, I got angry because it's the same bullshit coming in, and I thought, God, a cop got shot and no one gives a damn. I'm sure I went through my shift like normal. I'm sure I went through my shift like normal. I'm sure I made lots of inappropriate jokes. Probably took 3 hours to order dinner. It was fine. The one thing that wasn't the same was in my head. It was the audio from that call, just that first shots fired, Humboldt and Ruthven, over and over and over again in my head. I couldn't turn it off. And I went home, and I remember saying to my spouse, I don't want to think anymore. Please, I need to shut off my brain. Can we please go somewhere? Can we please do something? And so he handled me a bottle of liquor, and I got blackout drunk that night, among other things. And I went to a very dark place. And when I woke up the next morning, I was terrified because my mother had been an alcoholic, severe alcoholic, my biological mother. My sister has fetal alcohol syndrome. And I grew up always being very, very careful about my alcohol consumption. I was always mindful about that. So when I woke up the next day and I saw what happened, what I had turned to, I was terrified of how am I going to continue? What's going to happen to me if I continue like this? So I called my supervisors and I said, I need help. They put me in touch with some people. Right away, I was told, we don't normally deal with civilians. We're making an exception for you. And that reaction humiliated me. I do not typically ask for help. I am a very independent person. I don't always know how to ask for help, to ask for things, and to get that response hit me in the gut. And they said, look, like, here's the symptoms of PTSD. Eat right, sleep well, get some exercise. But our goal is to get you back to normal so you can do your job. And I essentially felt that after that, their involvement with me was purely CYA on behalf of the department. I didn't trust them. I didn't really feel like a person. The one highlight of some of this was I did get to meet the officers that were there at that call. And I remember the first thing I did was I apologized to them. Because if you listen to the playback, there's gaps. And I hated those gaps. I thought I was hesitating. So I met them and I apologized and I said, I'm very sorry for hesitating, that I wasn't there for you guys enough. And there was this female officer, and I'll never forget, I thought she was such a badass. To be a female officer and part of the gang unit. And she said, no, that's just the recording. You were always there for us. You were always there for us. And as the mental aftermath started barreling down at me, those words were sometimes the only things I had to hold on to. I struggled so bad afterwards. I was really irritated. I had zero patience. I found the radio to be really grating on my nerves. The stress I felt every day was like a mountain on my chest. It was all consuming. I wanted to get into fights with people. And I'd always been known as kind of that like cool, calm, like, oh, you have a good, you have a good head on your shoulders. I'd always been known as that dispatcher. And I wanted to pick fights with people. I mean, like, we all have like that one person that we know is like a bit of a bully or super opinionated. And we all secretly hope that they get taken down a peg. I wanted to be that person who took them down a peg. Every day I went to work and I worked with that bully. I was like, for the love of God, please pick a fight with me, because verbally I want to rip you a new one. That's not me. That's not who I am. But in that moment, that's what I wanted. No one noticed that I changed. No one noticed. They saw that the quiet, introverted, collected Nicole had a little bit more bite to her. But instead of someone noticing and saying, hey, something's up with you, everyone was like, yeah, good for you. Get it, girl. Good for you. And that made me even more miserable that no one was noticing, because I didn't know. I didn't know what to say. How do you say, guys, I feel affected by this? I don't want to. I started having panic attacks. Not frequently, but when my units stopped answering the radios, I had panic attacks. And I started to feel freaked out, because I thought, I don't know what's going on. I don't know where to go. I don't know what I can do to help this. I don't know. I feel so helpless right now. And most of all, I am terrified that if this gets out, that people are going to think that I am weak, that I shouldn't be here, that they can't depend on me on the floor. And it got so bad that I went to my supervisors and I told them I was a liability. I said, you do not want me sitting on that channel. You don't want me there. And the same supervisors who told me or said that I was just a civilian said, well, we hired you to dispatch, so you need to dispatch. And my thought after that was, I have nowhere to go. I'm trapped. I no longer took my channel. I would cover breaks. And that was a big kick to my pride. Because, dispatchers, we're not afraid to speak our minds. And I definitely got comments about why I wasn't on that channel anymore. They were not helpful, supportive comments. So the kind of one of the turning points was those gang units that I mentioned. One day in August, got involved in a foot pursuit. That female officer stopped answering her radio, and I didn't realize who it was. And then someone got on the air and said her name, and that panic attack came on and gave me a full-on spanking on the comm floor in front of everyone. Radio traffic still going on, 911 calls still coming in, and I am sitting there gasping for breath. My headset's still on. I had to walk out in front of everyone on the floor with an EMT. And it was the most humiliating experience of my life. I ended up, I felt broken. That's what I ended up telling my EMDR therapist. This experience broke me. And that's how I felt. The only 2 times in life that I have really felt just utter loneliness was this year going through divorce in the middle of COVID and this situation. And at least with the divorce, there's other people you can commiserate with. But with this, I literally felt like an island. I felt like I had no one. And so all this, I'm lonely, I'm trapped, I'm angry, I'm withdrawn. I don't know what to do. And the really, really messed up thing about it, right, is I mentioned before, alcoholic mother. I had a really shit upbringing. I went through 9 foster homes in 7 years. I was adopted by a religious zealot who had a severe case of personality, narcissist personality, probably borderline psychosis. I've always been able to survive. I've always been able to fight and get through and make my way out. And that's what killed me about this is I felt so utterly broken because I didn't know how to fight. I didn't know how to get up and fight for myself. And completely different. I think that the modern phrase would be resilient AF. That had always been me up until this point. And so I just felt like I was hitting the lowest of lows. And on top of that, I was getting commendations and awards. People who knew this officer was coming up to me and saying, hey, thank you. Thank you so much. You helped save his life. Thank you. And I didn't want any of it because I just felt so completely broken and undeserving. I had no pride in my work. So, fast forwarding through all of this because I'm looking at the time. I left, took a job in the private sector. I went and worked at a concrete plant where I dispatched and then became a manager. 6 months into that job, I was awarded Civilian of the Year through the Boston Patrol Association. And that is where I met the officer who was shot. The officer survived. And I met him for the first time. And it's also the first time that I had the words said to me, you should have had support. What happened to you wasn't right. You should have had support. And those 5 words hit me. It just stuck with me. I couldn't get rid of it. And because I wasn't already low enough, I got hit with a physical blow and I blew out my knee. And all of a sudden, I complete like ACL, meniscus surgery, months of physical therapy, and I am faced with myself for the first time. And I had to face, I'm not happy. I'm not happy. And I remember saying and realizing that through all of this, I had lost my sense of purpose. And that was a huge hole. And I remember realizing, God, I miss 911. I miss it. And I said, what if I went back? Oh my God, I know it sounds crazy. What if I went back? And the response I got back was, well, do you remember how that job almost killed you? Because it would have if I had stayed. I recognized that. I would not be here if I had stayed. But that's where I had the thought about perspective. It's all about perspective. If I change my perspective, could I go back? So that's what I did. I decided to face my demons and face my fears and figure out how can I somehow get my shit together where I'm in a place where I can actually go back and meet that purpose. So after a year and a half of leaving 911, I ended up going back. It felt really good. It felt like being home. I still had to work on my confidence. I was able to take a crisis intervention class for dispatchers, and they provided this for us. This is a self-care plan for periods of high stress or immediately following a critical incident. And I encourage you guys take screenshots of this. I'm happy. I'll provide my email at the end. I'll email it to you. Fill it out. Fill it out now before shit happens. So when shit hits the fan, you have a plan. I'll tell you what, step 2, internal coping strategies. I filled out what I can do on my own. I also filled out, this is what I don't want to do. Don't take me to a bar when I'm in high amounts of stress. Don't give me alcohol. Don't give me substances. And I do that because when I'm in that period of high stress, my brain's thinking differently. I want it written down on paper as a reminder for myself and the people that I share this with. Like I said, I'm happy to provide that and go back, but I started also addressing the other areas of my life that I wasn't happy with. I had gained a lot of weight. So I joined CrossFit, which initially was terrifying. I love it. It's made a big difference. I joined an all women's Olympic lifting group. It is one of the best things ever. It's literally women, all walks of life, and we get together and we throw around weight and we talk shit. And it is some of the best therapy ever. I love it. But in the middle of this, my coach, who is a badass in and of herself, called me on my shit. She'd watch me try to hit heavy weight, and I'd hit some heavy weight, and then I'd throw like 5 pounds on to hit my 1 rep max, and I would completely psych myself out. And she said, it is all up here, right? You are playing mind games with yourself. Cut that shit out. Figure it out. So I picked up this book. And this book, with the rest of my life since then, has been just completely different. There's this quote from this book that says, trust whoever you already are. Success is about dealing with reality, facing your demons, and not putting a smiley face on everything you do. You do have a dark side. Use it well. It can be your greatest gift. And so that's what I did. I decided to stop running and turn around and face my demons. And not just face them, make friends with them. My demons are now my allies. I embrace it. I embrace my dark side. And since I've embraced it, since I've been open about it, things have changed so much for the better. There's another quote from that book that says, you'll never get anywhere in life if you worry about what other people think about you. And I read that and I decided, fuck it. I don't care anymore. I don't care. I'm so tired of caring about what other people think about me. So I went forward. I heard about a scholarship opportunity from a national conference where the topic was wellness. And I was like, I need to be there. And I applied for the scholarship and I got it. And that was my introduction to Nina. And through Nina, I connected with people like JC Ferguson through the mentorship program and started talking to him about peer support. How can I build peer support? How can I get involved? We need this, right? I joined the wellness committee. I started working on subgroups about obesity and 911 and peer support and stress management. I got promoted to supervisor in my agency, despite having only been at my agency for a few months, despite people at my agency saying, you're not senior enough, you're never going to get this. I said, fuck it, and I went for it. I applied for a scholarship to be able to go to a communication center management program through IAD and Fitch and Associates, and I won it, and I won. Nina and CCM were life-changing for me because I no longer had this mountain of stress on my chest, because I could be completely wide open to the tools and the support that was being given to me that said, you are more than your past. There is so much more for you to offer. The other big thing that I want to touch on and to wrap up was I also completed EMDR. EMDR is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. The best way I can think to sum it up, it's like your brain has a picture of a traumatic event and it's stuck on that picture and it can't let go. EMDR helps retrain your brain so it thinks more of it as just a snapshot and it puts it in the past. It rechanges how your brain thinks about that incident. One of the reasons Nina was so life-changing for me was because that's where I first heard about EMDR. There was one presentation at Nina that I was determined to go to, and it was the 911 Training Institute's session on peer support. Jim Marshall and Ryan Dedman were presenting, and that was like the one thing that I wanted to go to, the entire conference. And I went and I listened to them talk, and Ryan shared his story about stuff he's been through with his job. And I went up to him afterwards and I said, hey, if you have a minute, can we talk? And he was like, yeah, sure. And we go off to some couches off to the side and we talk. And I said, how are you able to talk about your experience without just being consumed by it? And he looked at me and he's like, well, have you heard about EMDR? I was like, no, I haven't. I feel like I should, but no. So he explained it to me and he was like, I really, I encourage you to do it. I encourage you to go through and do it. And so eventually I did. And I did because Nina approached me and said, we want you to tell your story at our Critical Issues Forum about mental wellness. And I knew I needed to get my own stuff in check before I started speaking to people about it. So a lot of you guys, I don't know if there's anyone on here. I don't know if there's anyone on here who was in Austin and heard me speak. That video that you guys played, that I played for you guys, I only saw that for the first time 2 weeks before I spoke in Austin. And that's because of EMDR. Before that, I was terrified to watch it. I saw maybe 5 seconds because it got released to the media and no one thought to give me a heads up. And I was on the floor at work dispatching for my channel and I look up and there's the shooting in black and white. And after that, I could never bring myself to watch it until 2 weeks before my presentation. But that's the power of EMDR. And part of it is visualization. And my visualization was I was always on a train traveling somewhere. And my last session, my counselor said to me, how do you feel? And I said, well, I'm ready to get off the train. And I did. In my head, I got off my train and I stood on the sunny, wide open field, and all I saw was just wide open possibilities for me with the dark valley behind me. And I'm not, so to wrap up, I don't want you guys to hear me saying all this and say, well, look, I'm cured and it's easy. It's wicked easy. And if I can do it, you can do it. That's not about that. Let me make absolutely clear, PTSD is very different for everyone. Everyone has a different reaction. Everyone is set off by stuff. And your journey to being healed from it is going to be unique to you. I still can get emotional from watching it. I still get emotional talking about it because I don't realize just how much it's not a thing for me anymore. Once I walked out of my therapist's office, I don't think I thought about it again till August when I was talking to someone about my experience. And then I was fine. And then I queued this up and I started watching and it still hit me. The difference is it's not debilitating. All right. So you're watching this, you struggle with PTSD. What can you do? Start speaking up. Seek out help. There is, and I'm going to skip ahead to some slides because there's a great resource. This is one of them. Adam, Tim, and Joe Serio wrote this book, Dispatcher Stress, Lessons on Beating the Burnout. And they do a great job of breaking down, well, what is stress? How does it affect you? And how can you combat it? I really urge you, look up that book. Adam Tim once said in a presentation I heard, the script needs to change. We need to start addressing the human factor. And that absolutely goes for PTSD in 911. The way we're going to bring about change is by supporting the people that are going through it. We need to educate ourselves about PTSD, what it is, how we're affected, and how you can seek help. But the other part too is we need to be there if people come to you and say, I need help. Please be there for them. Don't turn a deaf ear. This poster or flyer is from the 911 Training Institute. I believe it's available for everyone to be able to download and print it out, make it available, wallpaper your center if you have to get the word out on it. But the biggest thing is we need to change the conversation about it. If it stays in the dark, it's just going to continue to fester. So we need to be way more open. This is a list of resources available, suicide prevention hotlines, crisis text lines for anyone's immediately in crisis. Psychology today, you can find a therapist and you can select EMDR as a type of therapy. Same with 911training.net. They list several resources. If you are wondering what to do for your center, how you guys can help, check out the Wellness Continuum with Nina. You do not have to be a Nina member in order to access that website, but they will direct you towards things like peer support, critical issue stress management, CISM teams, self-care, mindset, things like that. And my contact is at the bottom. If you guys have questions and stuff, please feel free to reach out to me. I will keep it in confidence. That's my personal email. And I just want to end with this. I want for 911 to be healthy. I want us to be the best profession ever. I want all of you to have long, successful careers in 911. But I request that we start taking care of ourselves, and I request that we start taking care of each other. I hope this has been helpful for you guys. I know I went over, Ricardo. I'm sorry.
Do not be
Um,
sorry at all. I don't know that
okay.
you saw it, but in the comments when you had mentioned about time, I had put in there,
Yeah.
you're good if you go over a little bit. It's
Okay.
yeah. No, this is something, and you can see it in the comments right now. Everyone is saying it. So many
Yeah.
people saying that this was so important, that you're so amazing, that this story is something that they needed to hear today. And
Mm.
and it is. When I heard you speak back in Austin, we had actually recorded an episode, before that, and then we did the. I was up there up front with you,
Yeah, you were.
and you were doing your session, and oh man, so powerful, and just thank you for everything that you do, and and for coming back, and of
Yeah.
course having the courage to share this story and to continue on. Now, for all of you who are watching right now, one of the things in the registration, there was an option there that was a yes or no to allow the speakers to get a hold of you with your email. So you'll end
Mhm.
up getting that information as well. I know a lot of people were looking for the link for the forms and stuff, and actually with some of the speakers with their PowerPoints, I've been adding it to the website so that people are able to get that. So if
Yeah.
that's something that you would like to share as well, we can also be able to put that up and offer it for people to download.
Yeah, absolutely. I know because of time I was pressed. I tried to have a few other resources. I know there were some, like there's a website I briefly went over that has like a self-care evaluation.
Mhm.
That's a great thing too. And it kind of goes over physical, spiritual, mental, and any resources I can give. That's why I'm happy to talk about this is to bring awareness to it, to let people know who are going through this. You're not alone. You're not by yourself in this. There is hope. It gets better. Um, that's what the shirt is for, right? It says you are not your thoughts. You are more than what's going on up in your head. It's how you take action and decide to address it. That's what's important. So, yeah, I hope this was really helpful for people.
There was a question that had just come in. It came in right after you had answered.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it was just about your shirt. They just wanted to know what the shirt said, but
Oh, yeah.
you yeah, you had just stood up, and there right there.
It's
That's
good
awesome.
timing.
Yeah. Again, thank you so much, my friend, for doing this presentation.
Hmm.
It was amazing, and just an
Good.
honor to have you as part of Dare to Be Great too. And yeah, everyone who's watching, and then also in the replays, all good, powerful information. Thank you so much. And for those who are watching who are here, we will be switching over to the next session. I will bring you with me, and like I said, I can't thank you enough. Thank you for sharing your story.
Yeah, I'm
Courage to
happy
do so.
to.
Have a
Thanks
good
for
one.
having me,
It's
Ricardo.
always good to see you. Hopefully, we can hit up Austin and get some of that barbecue.
Yes, I miss Austin.
Yeah, so good.
Miss it.
Have a good one.
All right, you too.